Paul from Les Bronx Guitars, and welcome back. Now today is the 5th in a series of videos I'm doing on how to build a scarf joint guitar neck. If you want to catch up to this video, go ahead and watch the first 4 and you'll see how we got to this point, and this is it right here. So in the last video I told you I wanted to thin out the heel because it's about 1/8 of an inch too thick. So we're going to thin that out, and then we're going to work this area around the heel here, this transition, this smooth curve. It's a little chunky on both sides here. I want to try to take a little more material out there and make it a little bit smoother. Same thing with this end where the volute is. On this side it's real chunky. I got to take that out and blend everything in. And after that we'll go ahead and we'll do some fret work on it. We'll do some leveling and some dressing on it. And that'll really complete it for now, because I don't know what I'm going to do with the headstock. I don't know what I'm going to do with this guitar. I mean this neck. This neck was made for this video, to do this video. I will use it on a guitar, but I'm not sure what yet. So it may get a stain, it may get a solid color, and maybe it may get oil finish on a face. All them back of my necks get oil anyways, but I'm not sure what I'm doing with this side here. So I'll take it up to the fretting, and that'll complete it. So, all right, let's get started with this. I got my safety planer chucked up into the drill press. I've got the neck here marked off on how much I want to take off. And I'm going to get close to that line. That's 1/8. I'm just going to go a little bit shy of that and finish off with some sanding, because the safety planer does leave a little bit of chatter. So I'll just go close to that. I got some double-sided tape on either side of this. It's not really holding it much. It's just in order for me to keep these from sliding. And these are just some straight sticks that I use on a different jig. I don't really even use it anymore, but they're great because they're nice and flat, and they keep the neck, because of the neck will wobble because of the radius right now. It keeps the neck nice and flat and straight because it's clamping against the sides here, if that makes any sense. So what I'm gonna do is just gonna hold like this, and I'm gonna bring it into this safety planer and start working my way down to that line. Looking good. Now I'll just finish this off with some hand sanding. Now I've got this thing in my holder. This is what I use to carve. You saw in the last video I use it to carve. And I'm just going to take, like I said, some sandpaper and get rid of some of those marks from the safety planer. And that's it. That's all it takes right there. And of course that'll get some, well, maybe a little bit more. See, a little bit of, later on of course it'll get some fine sanding. Trick here is to just stay nice and flat. You want this surface to be perfect. I mean, to me, this surface is so important. It's the most important part of building a neck, I think. Just, you know, just the way it fits in the neck. I want all the surface of wood from the neck and all the surface of the wood on the body to be touching completely. And that's how I think I get good sound transfer. Now I'm going to work this out a little bit. I think it's a little chunky over here. And I want it to flow out into this neck this way. And I'm going to keep my shape right here. It's hard to see it, but I probably ought to draw on it because I don't want to lose this shape. Very important. This is all about comfort in these areas. So I'll do that. I'll do this side here. And I don't want to lose, like I said, I don't want to lose that edge. It's actually not too bad right now. It's pretty close. I might even leave that alone. That's actually looking pretty good. I actually have to go this way. Camera's in the way. It's actually not bad. And all I'll do right there is follow it up with some sandpaper. And you know, even though I say I'm going to finish this neck in this video, there will actually be some more fine sanding that's going to be done. It's just the way it is. It'll reach that point where it'll be perfect, you know. So maybe a little more aggressive paperwork, sandpaper here. I got some 80 grit. This side here needs a little bit more aggressive. It's all about blending everything in. Back to 120. It's not rocket science. It's just, you know, nice smooth transition. I'm gonna move up to the volute. All right, let's work on this volute a little bit here. It's a little chunky in here. I just want it all to flow in. And you got to be careful in these areas because you can chip out. That looks pretty good already. It doesn't take much. And this file right here, this is a nice file. This is a razor file. It's just the right size to get in there. I really enjoy working with this file. This side already looks pretty good. Doesn't really need much there. And really that's it there. Some 80 grit sandpaper. Smooth everything out. Get that nice transition. All about comfort. And I try to do my necks, and you see I do them a lot by hand. I try to make them so that they feel like an old guitar you've had for years. It's just so comfortable. One that's just broken in and it's been played so much that it's just flawless, you know. It's just the way I try to do things. It's my theory. You know, it's not CNC. To me, the imperfections that you could get by doing it by hand, they just they give it that feel. It doesn't feel stiff and brand new. I think you guys know what I mean. I hope you do. Look, it's a guitar. It's made out of wood. It should feel natural. And really, that's it. I mean, that's a real good transition right there. Actually, I feel a little more something here. It's all in the feel of it, you know? Sorry, I keep going around this camera. All right, now it's time to do some fret work. Now I've got it in this fixture. This is similar to the StewMac fret and jig or whatever they call it, but mine's is with a twist, I guess. I don't really fret or use this jig like the guys over there at StewMac do. You know, they purposely put a relief in it, and they sand it out that way, or they level it out that way. That theory, it just doesn't. I just don't buy it. I don't know. I just something about it. Maybe it's something I just don't understand. So I don't use this jig that way. It just doesn't make sense to me. But maybe it's just you know, I'm not getting it. I don't know. But anyways, what I do is I use this to make my fingerboard flat. I mean, perfectly flat. So I set it up in this jig. It's clamped here. It's clamped here, and then it's got these rods underneath here that can be adjusted by these knobs, and they come up and they touch the neck so that it's solid. So when I run something across it, I'll run my straight edge across it, or my bar, my sanding bar, it stays put. And what I do is I take this gauge right here, and I made this. It's just a rule, and I cut notches in it. One side's a 25.5-inch scale, one's a 25-inch scale, and I just take it and I put it where the notches are, over the frets where the notches are, and that tells me how level my fingerboard is when it's touching the wood. It's not touching the frets now, so it's telling me how straight this fingerboard is. And if it's off a little bit, I'll adjust the nut, whether it's on this end or this end, depending on which type of neck I'm making. So I establish that. I make sure this is perfectly flat, and I adjust these knobs down here to bring these rods up to touch the neck, and I tighten them. So now there's no flex at all in this thing. All right, so I do it that way. It's just straight. I like to do it just straight on. I don't put any, like I said, I don't put any kind of a relief in it to start out with. Straight right off the bat, and I get great results using it this way. So I've already set it up. As you can see, it is nice and flat. Hopefully you can see that, but trust me, it's flat. And I just tweaked the truss rod just to here, just to get a little bit out of the center. And now I'm ready to proceed with the fretting, the leveling. First thing I'm going to do is take this Sharpie, and I'm going to basically paint these frets. I'm going to put this black Sharpie on these frets, let it dry for a little bit, and then I'm going to take my straight edge, my straight sanding beam, and I'm going to slightly go over these. And what this is going to do, and I'm sure you've seen tutorials on this before, but you're going to see shiny spots show up. So the black magic marker excuse me, it allows you to see where the high and low spots are in the frets. So, and this is just a good way to do it. You can use any color. You can use some red ones, you can use some black ones, it doesn't matter. Whatever Sharpie you have available, use it. So, sorry this takes a little bit. I try to speed things up sometimes on videos, because you know, I don't want it to be too boring, because this stuff does take time. If you want to do it right, don't rush. I mean, I'm not in a high production mode on my guitars. I don't do that many every year. This is more of a hobby than anything. I do make a little money building guitars, but it's not what pays my bills, but maybe someday it will. Sure would be nice. Just hit it one more time. Sometimes it's a little hard to see with the lighting. Sometimes lower lighting is better, but lower lighting is not good for video. Okay, they all look pretty good. Now I'm going to get my beams. So here's my sanding beam. I got a piece of 120 on that side and some 220 on the other side here. So what I'll do with this is I'll put it on, and I'm not going to push down hard. I'm just going to use the weight. This is like I think it's steel, but it's got a nice ground finish to it. It's not aluminum, it's steel. It's heavier than steel. So just the weight of it is good enough. Pressure. So I just run it back and forth here. And if you can see that, you can see where the dark and the light spots are. And that's just, you know, the light spots are where the high spots were. So I'll do this a little bit back and forth, and until I get it where they're all shiny. And I'll mark it up a couple more times, and I'll do it. And I'll switch over to the finer side when the time is right. I'll switch it over, and it'll fine tune it. All right, what I'm doing here is I'm recrowning the frets, the curvature of the frets this way. So I've marked them all with the Sharpie again, and I've already made it down to here, but I'll take this guard, put it on here to protect the wood. In my file, I'll put it on an angle, and I'm going to run this side of the fret and this side of the fret. What I'm doing is I'm breaking that sharp edge that was put there by flattening the fret itself. Now these are stainless steel frets, so it takes a little more to do them. Sometimes, you know, with the nickel silver, it just takes a couple swipes. You might see me run this a little bit more because they're stainless and they're hard. But what I'm doing is I'm establishing the crown again. And by marking them with the Sharpie, it allows me to see that I'm not touching the very center of the fret. There'll be a line. I don't know if you can see on this camera, but there's a thin line I'm leaving down the center, top center of this fret. Matter of fact, this one here needs a little bit more on this side. And that's so that I don't touch the tops at all. I don't want to lose my level. You want your strings, when they come down and touch the fret, to touch the very center of the fret. The less it touches, actually the better. Like a little peak. Some guys do frets that way to a peak, like a pyramid. I don't. I round mine. So I'm going to make my way down the rest of this fingerboard, and we'll go to the next step. What I'm doing now is I'm using this eraser. It's an eraser, well, I don't know what you call it, from StuMac. It's a fret eraser. It's got grit to it. This is, I think it's 800, 600. I got a 220. I'm just running along the sides, just like I did with the file. And I'm cleaning it up some more. And once again, I'm leaving the center alone. I'm getting a little more defined line now by using this tool. Once I get these done, of course I'll switch over to the finer one as well. It's all about getting to a point where it's shaped right and it's just smooth, like jewelry. It's like shining jewelry. Okay, what I'm doing here now is taking off these sharp corners of the frets. Just gonna work my way down. I've already started already, just to save time. But I'm gonna work my way back the other way. And I'm getting these little corners and I'm rounding these ends over slightly. And my next step will be to run some sandpaper, and it's gonna blend all this in. It's all gonna work out. You'll see. All right, now that they're rounded over, we're gonna switch over to my eraser. Now, this eraser has a curved part of it right here. It's like the shape of the fret. So it'll hug the fret and it'll sand around it. I'm going to take some 220 here. Well, actually this is 320. And I'm just going to run it along these frets like this here, back and forth. I usually give it about the same amount of passes, and then I go to the edges like that. So I work it all the way around. So I'm going to do that to all of these, and I'm going to go up to probably maybe a 600 grit, and then I'll do something different from there. Got some rubbing compound here. I've got a Dremel with a buffing pad on it. I'm going to take some of this stuff and just pour it out on something. Just a piece of this old sandpaper. Get a little bit on it. And stop polishing. Slow it down just a little bit. Okay guys, well, I lost a little bit of footage. Let me tell you what you missed. I took this razor blade and I cleaned up in between each one of these frets like this here. It's a fresh blade. And what I'm doing is I'm getting the muck out of between these frets. Alongside these frets with some glue squeeze out, some super glue squeeze out. Prior to gluing them in, I put wax over each slot. Then when I press them in, it's the glue squeezed out on top of the wax. And that allows me to be able to just scrape it off pretty easy later on. I'll leave it alone until I'm done buffing all the frets out like I did. And so I went along each one of these positions. I scraped it with this blade. I also rounded over the corners, the edges on both sides of the neck. It just gives it a little better comfort, a little more comfortable feel on it. So yeah, you did miss that, but there it is. All right, that fretwork is looking good. Highly polished. Everything's smooth. Nothing's catching your hand. This is going to be a great guitar neck, a great neck for guitar. I'm not sure what I'm going to put it on yet, so I'm going to leave it at this point. I will put a little bit of putty in these little slots, these fret slots that are open a little bit. I'll do that just before I finish it with oil. Actually, I do put oil on this, but I'll do that a little later. It's not worth videoing that part. It's kind of simple. But anyways, so this is the last part here for this video series. I hope you enjoyed the whole series, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're not a subscriber yet, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. You can also share these videos just to get the word out about what I do here at Les Moss Guitars. So until next time, I will see you later.